Jevon Holland, welcome to the New York Football Giants. Nick Falato here to go through some Holland tape. The Giants signed a 6-foot, 207-pound former Oregon Duck who combines range and fluidity to have success in man coverage while also having the eyes and the discernment ability, the overall spatial awareness to be used in a variety of zone and match concepts, which is exactly what happened with three separate defensive coordinators throughout his rookie contract. More on that in a little bit. The New York Giants went out and they landed Jevon Holland on a 3-year, $45.3 million contract. The deal includes $30.3 million guaranteed and can get up to $46.8 million with incentives. This is around the same price that the Giants decided not to give Xavier McKinney. I believe Xavier McKinney makes slightly more than $1 million per AAV. He makes 16.75, Xavier McKinney, whereas Jevon Holland makes 15.1. I'll say this, the tape I've seen, Xavier McKinney is a better football player, especially for the 2024 version of Jevon Holland. But Holland is still a big play guy who can really do whatever you want. He's played with, again, three separate defensive coordinators. Anthony Weaver last year, the defense as a whole was a mess for the Miami Dolphins. So I don't want to necessarily just hold that against Holland. And as you're seeing on the screen right now, we'll go through some of these plays. He is a big play waiting to happen. But Anthony Weaver, it didn't happen all that much. And then Vic Fangio, again, the film was better than 2024, but it wasn't as good as it was, in my opinion, back in 2022 and 2021. I've seen a little bit of 2021, so a lot of 2022 tape. And I loved how he was utilized in Josh Boyer's system, which was a lot more cover one, a lot more middle of the field closed. He was playing deep safety because he has that type of range, that type of fluidity, and the eyes. But you can really trust him with any safety responsibility. And it's one of the reasons why I have a lot of respect for Jevon Holland. It's one of the reasons why I appreciate this signing, is because if you want him to play strong safety, free safety in the box, you need him to blitz. He can play 2 high quarters, cover 4. Have him read the release of the number 2 and then assume man coverage responsibility based on that. He understands where he has to be. At least that's what I saw in Josh Boyer's defense, not as much in Anthony Weaver's, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But any responsibility that he's tasked with, he seems to understand and I would say play at least to a solid rate. This is a good overall football player. Now, there are elements of his game that I need to see be cleaned up, especially from his 24 tape. A lot of that has to do with tackling. A lot of that has to do with some blown coverages. But again, I think that it was a product of the defense last season. The 2023 games that I did watch was the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills in week 4, and the Chargers game, just for context on the 2023 film. But I want to dive into some of these plays specifically to showcase what the New York Giants and Shane Bowen are receiving with Jevon Holland and how his addition will assist Tyler Nubin. And you have two guys who see the field well and who can play well within the structure of what Shane Bowen does from a quarter standpoint, 2 high standpoint. And when he does decide to go into cover 1, Holland is tailor-made to play middle of the field closed due to the range, the eyes, and the ability to jump, click, and close on routes underneath. Let's get to some of the positive plays before we get into these negatives that are running right now. Holland dropped down in the box quite often in 2023 and in 2024, and you can see why it was successful to a certain degree. He did miss 17.1% of his tackles in 2024, and I don't love his tackling technique. I don't think he actually brings a ton of power. I don't think he plays to his weight, his 207, 210-pound frame, whichever number we're reading off of, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But he does operate through trash well, as you could see, getting through blocks when he's coming forward like this, stays to the outside, forces the tight end wide to other contained defenders, forced defenders. Here we're going to see him fly up, get into the alley, and just stick Khalil Shakir. I wouldn't say he's the best run defending safety, but he's a good run defending safety. It's a little bit better earlier in his career. This play is akin to, again, it's against Travis Etienne, which is funny, but it's akin to Xavier McKinney against Jacksonville back in 2022, punches the football out, falls into the end zone. Somebody jumps on top of it. Giants need players who can create turnovers. Giants got players who can create turnovers in Adebo and Jevon Holland. I like how he blitzes, how he comes forward, fights through this block, gets to the inside, tracks down Tony Pollard, 2024 play. Here, go back to 2023 with Devin Singletary. Giant, great Devin Singletary missing a blitz pickup here, albeit Deion Dawkins needs to get out there as well. I don't know the protection call, but the blown protection, and Jevon Holland ends up stripping Josh Allen for the strip sack turnover for the Miami Dolphins. Here we're going to see against the New England Patriots. This is something that you see all throughout the tape and in 2024 when he's playing from depth. He gets a man coverage responsibility where he is going to the flat against the running back. Now, this is just, hey, if there is a running back to the flat, you are going to assume that because you don't see this as true man towards his side. Running back comes to the flat. He comes from depth. And the team trusts him to be able to plant and drive downhill on routes like this. And he did this a lot with Miami last year in 2024, where there's about 15 yards of separation. He's tasked to take the correct angle of approach downhill and meet the ball carrier or the pass catcher, rather, in the open field to make the tackle. I would argue he doesn't always do this perfectly. He did it perfectly on this play, though, and this was on 3rd and 4. So he makes the stop and forces the punt. Here against Jacksonville, another blitz, gets in, forces an overthrow. Should have been caught, Christian Kirk, just out of his hands. Almost blew the timing on this play. I don't know if it catches here. Yeah, he steps forward, then he backs off. And then, for whatever reason, Travis Etienne and the guard, I guess Travis Etienne thought 20 had an open path, but 93 bailed off. Good play call. Good play call. Holland gets in, forces the overthrow. Here we're going to see some premature celebration. Nobody wants to be premature, right? And that's not Holland in the red circle. Holland is going to drop down. It's another thing that happened often. You're going to see this a lot with Shane Bowen. When Shane Bowen does bring these overhang, these apex defenders, you're going to have the safety towards that side, drop down, assume man coverage on a wide receiver, on a big slot. Holland has the man coverage skills to be able to guard wide receivers in the slot. I'm not going to say he's going to excel in that area, but he is athletic enough and fluid enough to do so. Against tight ends and running backs, he is an asset as a man coverage safety. Against wide receivers, I wouldn't necessarily say he's an asset, but he's not a liability either, and that's all you need. Now you have him drop right over Devontae Adams, shade to the outside. Adams runs a quick slant. You can see he quickly opens his hips and then straddles, matches, and times his hug of Adams right at the catch point to pop the football in the air. 11 intercepts it. And now we're going to see he celebrates way too prematurely. And then he's like, oh, wait, the play is still going on. I might need to throw a block. Let me still play football. And then he goes into whatever dance that is. I'm not hip. I don't know what it is. But these are the types of plays right here I want to highlight. You have a too high defense. It's cover 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going back to 2022. Now you're going to have a 2x2 set with a running back releasing out of the backfield. Holland is just eyeing the number 2 receiver towards his side, up the seam. Goes from too high, transfer to cover 3. He's going to assume the robber roll. Quarterback rears back to throw it. Holland jumps it. This is something that him and Tyler Nubin can do. They both have a lot of tape showcasing this. I mean, you go back to Holland at Oregon, somebody who had 9 interceptions and I think 10 PBUs in just 2 seasons at Oregon. I really love this tape at Oregon too. Ends up going in the 2nd round. Balls out. I think he was on the rookie pro football rookie team, all rookie team in 2021. And in 2022 was really good. 2023 was a solid season. It was a good season, I would say. And then last year was a little bit down. But this is a 25-year-old who has the skill set to do really whatever you ask him to. Here, excellent angle downhill from the middle of the field, close safety. Again, this is in Josh Boyer's defense. You got man coverage across the board, a bunch of condensed splits. He has to read Josh Allen here. Josh Allen hits that back foot, and you have a vertical route who has a little bit of vertical separation on that top route, just outside of the hash, away from Holland. But Holland is reading Josh Allen, and he breaks, opens his hips, strides out towards the 2 receivers to the boundary side. And once he sees Josh Allen commit to Dawson Knox, he drives downhill and then knocks the football away. It's a good path by Holland. Watch, you see that stripe of the helmet and the hip turn by Josh Allen, and then you see those feet at the top of the screen. Those are Holland's feet. Right when he sees the stripe of the helmet, gain depth, give yourself enough room to drive downhill or cover that vertical route towards that side of the field. Again, I appreciated him as a middle of the field closed safety. Here we're going to see him. It's another middle of the field closed look where he's going to guard this horizontal crossing route. Amon-Ra St. Brown makes the catch, but Jevon Holland comes in and just punches it out. He's looking to dislodge the football. Playmaker. Again, here's cover 2, where you're going to have the flat defender peek the number 2 receiver's release, and you're going to flow Jevon Holland aggressively over the top, giving the assumption to Josh Allen, who is throwing now towards the field side, that honey shot, that honey hole, whatever you want to call it, is open. But Holland has that acceleration and that explosiveness to cover it. Almost comes away with an interception here. And I think right when Josh fires his football, his howitzer attached to his torso, right? He's like, oh, crap, because you could see that Holland is already headed downhill. Just misses coming away with a beautiful interception. Here's another play of same game. Josh Allen, 2022. Drive down on the sail. Drive down on that corner route. You got a smash concept to that side. The corner hooks Stefon Diggs around both of those underneath defenders. And at this point, Holland's about 11 yards off, just starts to drive downhill as Josh Allen has released the football, and he's able to get to the catch point and just lodge the football again. That type of timing, it's impressive. You don't find that a lot in safeties, that overall instincts and feel. And you can see how he attacks catch point as well. Comes in with that outside arm while wrapping his arm around the waist of Stefon Diggs to knock this football out. Saw a lot of this in 2022. Really appreciated it. This is last year, 2024. And I don't think he touches this football. It's hard to tell. We'll see it on the other angle. But I wanted to showcase this play specifically because he is the defender in conflict. He's dropping down. He's buzzing down. And you're going to get a cover 3 look. And now he's the curl flat defender towards the field side. Dorian Thompson-Robinson rolled to the other side, and he's setting up for a throwback play. And you can see how there are 2 eligible receivers in his area, and there's really no other Dolphins defender. This is a smart play by Holland to just understand where he is at on the field, understand where the offense is as well, and know that this is a far throw for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So let's get our hips turned. You see the tight end go to the flat. Now you're going to turn and understand that there could be crossing routes towards that side since we had multiple eligible receivers from that area. So he gets his eyes on Dorian Thompson-Robinson, totally flips his hips once that happens because he understands that there's a route coming open, crossing route, sinks underneath, and then affects the catch point. Don't know if he actually got his hands on this football, but he was in the area to at least make it a tough catch for Elijah Moore, albeit the throw was, that wasn't a bad throw. It was a catchable pass, but Holland was at least in position to knock it down on. I don't know if he got his hands on that. Now, this was a catch by Jaden Reed, but again, we're going to see motion Tucker Kraft to try to get Jevon Holland away from Kraft. And Holland does a good job understanding there's going to be a wheel route. So he does not try to undercut his defender to that side. He's going to work over the top of all that trash. And now you have 3-on-3 matched Miami Dolphins against the Green Bay Packers. And he stays on top of that Tucker Kraft route. But Jaden Reed separates because Jaden Reed is an excellent wide receiver. It's a nice little pivot route. Gets matched up. I believe that's against a safety. And then you see Holland come off his route. It's a little bit too late to dislodge the football. Still a sense of awareness there. Here, man coverage against Austin Eckler. You have all that space. This is a tough assignment for a safety to guard Austin Eckler, one of the better receiving backs. This is in 2023, I believe. Yes. And he has to guard that double move. Stays on top, gets his hips turned around. Very good rep by Jevon Holland. He could easily bit on that, took a more flat angle. Instead, he stood high and on top because there's a lot of space if he took a flat angle to get beat towards the sideline. Austin Eckler starts his cut at the bottom of the numbers. You don't want to commit to the flat at that point and then allow Austin Eckler to just go up on the wheel. And that almost happened, but Holland does a great job staying with Austin Eckler. You can also see just Holland's feet here. It's changing a bunch. He's redirecting himself. This shows a lot of control and athletic ability, and I appreciate that. against one of the better receiving backs at that time. Here, against Robinson, this is in the red zone against the Los Angeles Rams. You get a 3-by-1 route. You have the tight end motion wide. Holland just stays to the inside. There's a lot of Dolphins in that area. This is 2024 Miami Dolphins. Dolphins won this game, and it was like, why had the Rams lose at home to? Anyways, but you can see how he's in good position to make a play on this football. And there were a lot of blown coverages in 2024. I just don't know who to blame. We'll see some of that a little bit later. If it was all on Holland or some of the other teammates. Didn't seem like the defense was playing in a gelled fashion. Good play against Evan Ingram here. Evan Ingram runs the curl. Holland stays flat-footed, sees the turn, quickly drives through, gets his hand right into the catch point, knocks football away. That's on a 3rd and, I think, 7. And here's a 4th and 1 against Brock Purdy and the 49ers. You have Holland on the line of scrimmage, 2 receivers to that side. Also with a running back to that side, takes a step forward, sees a running back go underneath the releases of 2 vertical routes to that side. Almost comes away with a pick. Again, has a lot of these almost moments throughout his tape. Come away with the football there. People remember that. Here we're going to see him stick the tight end from Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid. Just go low, make this tackle. I wish he did this more often. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. But this is just a good, I'm just going to go low. I'm going to hit you right at the knees, right at the shins. I'm going to roll over, and I'm not going to let you go. He doesn't do that nearly enough, at least not in 2024. And it was one of the reasons why I was slightly, I don't want to say disappointed because I do like this signing, but I didn't think I'd see so many mistakes throughout his tape in 2024 when it comes to technique. Again, he's only a 25-year-old, but some of these are tackling techniques. Some of these are just getting blocked and eliminated out of the play. We'll get to it here in a little bit. Also show some more man coverage skill. Coming down from depth. Safety rotation. Can you rotate, drop down to meet, match, and then carry? Can you do that? Yes, you can. Jevon Holland can do all of those things while also staying right on top like that. It's a very good play by Jevon Holland. He's not targeted on the play or anything like that, but you just see how the safeties are going to rotate, has to step down. There's a lot of transitioning for a player like Jevon Holland because he's asked and tasked to do so many different things defensively. And that's what you want from your safeties. You want a safety who can handle any responsibility that is bestowed on him, right? Yes. Any of these defensive coordinators, all of them, they tasked him to do a lot of different things, and he was able to handle them and was not a liability with anything that he was asked to do. That's what I appreciate. And as I say that, we are going to transition and segue into his negative plays. And a lot of these are from 2024, but it was a bit upsetting. Look, he's getting, when I said he doesn't necessarily play to his 210-pound frame, he's going up against somebody who's much bigger here. So I want to keep that in mind, but I did see him getting bullied more than I saw him making these bone-crushing, punishing type of hits. And these are the types of bully plays that I'm talking about. Tucker Kraft just gets inside of him, out-leverages him, and then just throws him to the ground. Then he gets up again, and then Tucker Kraft gets in his way once again. So it happened once. It's like, oh, okay, but it doesn't. Like, you have plays like this where Kyron Williams basically runs through Jevon Holland's face, runs through him, and Holland, he hangs on, ends up bringing him down, but you don't see that type of pop that you see from other safeties in the alley. Now, to be fair, this is you coming from depth as a safety and a running back lowering his shoulder into you, and the running back's not even touched until he runs into you about 4 yards down the football field. Got to keep that in mind, but I also believe it's important to acknowledge that he is taking these hits that I didn't necessarily see a bunch of stopping power at the line of scrimmage from him. Doesn't mean that he's weak or bad in run support, but I wouldn't say he is one of the more hard-hitting safeties in the league, right? That's not necessarily what we're getting from a Jevon Holland. Here, you have the tight end, Brenton Strange, just get up and just drive Holland well out of the play. You don't want to see this. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, yo, did his feet get tangled up? And I don't think so. It might have been, though. It's very close. But he just gets driven and driven and driven well through the whistle. And I included that, even though it's a little bit ambiguous that he gets stepped on, because, again, I saw plays similar to that on tape a few times like this. Dawson Knox you have Dawson Knox catching a football, Jevon Holland with momentum hitting him, but he goes too high. And then Knox just throws him and kind of bitches him to the ground. Hate to see that. I've seen a lot of Jevon Holland over the last 2 days going high with his tackles and not driving through. And that's a problem. Like you got to drive through. You got to exercise better aiming points, and you got to utilize all of your power and all of your weight, because you're a decently sized safety at 6 foot, teetering on 6'1", 207 pounds. And then there's plays like this where he leaves his feet early. Again, the aiming points are not great, and he dives and he leaves himself susceptible. And I saw this a lot in 2024 specifically, where he's just missing, or he's making contact, or these very weak arm tackles that running backs just breeze through. And you're going to see a few more of them. Plays like this. It's like, what are you doing, man? You're coming down and then you're just dropping your head and leaving your feet, and you're not even impeding the running back. And I'm not trying to say that or act as if I don't like Holland. I do, but you got to acknowledge this stuff. You do. It's important, because we might see it on Sunday, especially if anything's like 2024. I hope Shane Bowen has his defense a little bit more dialed in than Anthony Weber. But yeah, speaking of things that weren't great, Jevon Holland against the San Francisco 49ers in 2024, specifically Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel ate his lunch this day, and plays like this are indicative of that, where you stand him up and Deebo just runs right through him. Need to see more play strength. I wish he was a stronger. I don't think he is like an excellent play strength type of safety. I don't think he's a liability, although these plays would suggest so. But he needs to be a little bit stronger, and I hope that he could be a little bit more crisp with his technique, specifically tackling. Plays like this, you hit the hip, but Deebo Samuel, as you learned just previously, is very strong. That's the second play. Here's the third play against Deebo, where just misses the tackle. Debo's able to get a first down on that play. Just diving wildly. Need to be a more disciplined player in space. Here, this is against DK Metcalf early in the game against the Seattle Seahawks. You're going to have cover two. He's cover two safety. This is a beautiful Poco route, post corner. Jevon Holland tries to anticipate the post, gets himself out of position, takes a shallow depth. Like you can see the other safeties at more of a depth, but he thinks it's going to be a dig or a post. And if you look at the underneath defenders, they're all occupied with other receivers. So he's trying to play that, but he leaves himself out of position, and Geno Smith made him pay. And DK Metcalf took it all the way to the house. Here, we're going to see him come downhill and lose contain against Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet runs right by him, gets in for a touchdown. Now, he's not the force per se, but he's got that B gap. That's exactly where the run went through. Charbonnet gets right through the B gap, late to fill, touchdown. Need more in run support. Didn't think he was all that great in run support in 2024. It was much better in 2022, which I think it's safe to say. You can say that with a lot of his tape. Although I wouldn't say his 2024 film is terrible either. I still think there were a lot of good moments in 2024, but a lot more mistakes as well. Just wasn't as crisp as his first 2 years in the NFL. Here, just goes high, doesn't drive through, kind of tries to go for a strip. Want to see more driving through and not this, you know? Now here he at least gets enough of them to bring him down, but it's almost another missed tackle by him. And he's too good of a football player to allow it to happen. And as we close this out, this brief video, you see some of those plays, a lot of them from 2024, where he's making strong tackles in run support. Again, don't think he's a bad football player. I don't think he gets bitched around too much. I think there are a lot of plays like this where he avoids the contact, is smart to make tight ends miss in space and then position himself optimally to make plays. But he's not flawless as a run defender. And he made a lot of mistakes in 2024. That's just the reality of the situation. He's still a tough overall football player, a smart overall football player, one who can play man coverage. And again, I think the most important part about this is anything Shane Bowen wants to do with his safeties, he can execute. And I think Tyler Nubin is in that conversation as well. And both of these players are smart enough to understand how to run match principles and how to react and how to read the route combinations and then make the offense pay for what they are doing, especially if they establish tendencies, right? If the Giants can play quarters and stop the run, if they could beef up their trenches a little bit and then they can actually play too high, too read type of safeties, Jevon Holland is a significant upgrade over everything that Jason Pinnock ever showed. I think he's a significant upgrade over Pinnock just in general because Pinnock had some liabilities as well, and Holland is much more of a playmaker than Jason Pinnock is. Now, I'll say this. I don't think he is Xavier McKinney. As I mentioned earlier, Xavier McKinney is only making a little bit more, and that little bit more is a difference that I think is worth it for Xavier McKinney's skill set relative to Jevon Holland. But that ship has sailed. It's water under the bridge at this point, right? Like, what are we going to do? He's a Green Bay Packer, and he's a damn good one. But I do think this is a good football player, a good overall football player who, again, similar to Chauncey Golston, is ascending. He's only 25 years old, and he could do anything that you ask him to do. And he could dance, as you just saw on the YouTube. So overall, I do like the signing. Trevon Merrick is making 17 a year with the Carolina Panthers. Cam Bynum is making just under him at 15. Jevon Holland's 15.1. And I like Jevon Holland better than both of those players, Merrick and Cam Bynum. And Hufanga, he's making 15. I do like Hufanga, but he has his injury issues, formerly of the 49ers, now with the Denver Broncos. So overall, I do like the signing. Just don't think it is perfect. I think this does complement the defense well. And we're looking at this defensive structure. You have Tay Banks, you have Drew Phillips, you have Paulson Adebo now. Safeties, Tyler Nubin and Jevon Holland is a young core secondary that hopefully can grow together and gel together, allowing Dexter Lawrence, the other defensive lineman the Giants are hopefully bring in, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Chauncey Golston, to cook up front. And hopefully the offense doesn't force the defense onto the football field all the damn time, right? Like, these are the things I'm thinking about when looking at this secondary. And I know the Giants added a player right here who could play man, who could do whatever you need to do in zone, and who also fits what Shane Bowen wants to do. I think he's a good football player. I think it was a good signing. But as I said, with the caveats before, it's not necessarily perfect and he needs to clean some things up. But that's to be expected with every football player, especially one that a team just allowed to walk out the door. But again, good football player. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm Nick Falato signing off. Take care of each other, everybody, and have a lovely day.